הערב Maestro Zubin Mehta, האורח שלנו. Good evening, Maestro.
Good evening. אני לא מבין עברית, אבל יידיש. אבל הוא לא מבין יידיש.
Maestro, May 1961.
Oh, wow.
Did you have any inkling that 50 years after that first concert, you would be sitting on the stage talking to this audience?
In 61, I was happy that they invited me again in 63. That was my great achievement as a young conductor. To get the first chance somewhere, it happens. But to be invited afterwards again, this is what we have to be, we pray for. And after that it was easier, of course. 63, then 65, and 66. I went on tour with the Israel Philharmonic of Australia and New Zealand, also as a substitute. In those days I was available for all substitutions.
Actually, I spoke to Zev Steinberg, who was the assistant principal viola for 42 years in the orchestra, and he said something about your second visit with the orchestra, and I'll quote him. He said, "The great surprise was Zubin's second visit when he did Bruckner Ninth Symphony, which was an Israeli premiere. He came to the first rehearsal and said, 'Let's just read.' He didn't open the score, he closed his eyes and conducted the first movement from A to Z. There was nothing to fix. The first violins were absolutely flabbergasted. So young, conducting from memory, so musical. He didn't need to look, all eyes were on him. It was simply the strength of his personality. After the second visit, the entire orchestra wanted him as music director. Everybody liked him."
This I didn't know. But I remember the second visit, not only Bruckner's Ninth, but we did Webern 6 pieces for orchestra, which shocked also the orchestra a little bit, but also the public. And the public is still being shocked. You won't give in. Every time we play something contemporary, I stand here and I look at the audience, and half the audience is just looking at me. Not even politely applauding. But I don't give up. I also have arguments with my colleagues of the VAR, who always want to temper the repertoire. Say, no, if we play this, nobody will come. But we must, ladies and gentlemen, we must play contemporary music. We must give today's composers opportunity to be performed. Otherwise, who will your grandchildren listen to? Of course they will listen to Mozart, that's for sure. But we have to also build and keep on building the confidence of the new generation. So please understand that. Sie wird helfen wie eine Deutsche Bank.
Could you say something about what the Israel Philharmonic was like in the 60s?
Well, it was the orchestra of the Austrian Empire. Today it is the orchestra of the Soviet Empire. Still, it's all coming from the East. I spoke more German in those days with many of the key players. Concertmaster, first flute, first oboe, first bassoon, first horn, third horn. They were all German speaking. Not necessarily Viennese speaking, but German speaking. Haftel was Viennese. Haftel and I immediately connected with our Viennese accents. And Kaminsky, the other concertmaster, was Polish but spoke fluent German. So I felt very at home coming from Vienna. And otherwise there were Hungarians, a lot of Polish people. But not too much Russian was spoken in the orchestra. Today, it's another matter.
And how did you feel being the youngest person on stage?
I was almost yeah, you're right. It's not the fact today. You know, when I turned 65, I was with the Vienna Philharmonic in Warsaw on that day. And I said, from now on, you know, I'm older than all of you, so I want respect. So since then, basically in Europe, I'm always the oldest confronting the orchestra. Not in America. America, there is no retirement age. So there are some people older than me sitting in the orchestra.
Your first tour with the orchestra, you filled in for Giulini in Australia. And at that time, Australia did not really welcome Asians. Did you ever feel any kind of discrimination as an Indian?
No, not. I wouldn't, because you know a conductor's position is different. But of course, in 1966, no Indians, no Asians were allowed to emigrate to Australia. There might be very few exceptions. And then we went to New Zealand, and then I discovered the few Indians that were in Wellington and Auckland. Well, they said, yeah, they live outside of town with the Maoris. So I gave some pretty angry interviews, apart from the fact that I hated the food of the Goyim there in New Zealand, dreadful, and I criticized that too. When I went back to America, the New Zealand ambassador in Washington sent me a book of New Zealand cuisine. So, but that's the tour. I got to know the orchestra personally. You know, living together, going from city to city. It was wonderful, really wonderful. The Australian halls were still the old English-built town halls. Very good acoustic, but absolutely no heating or cooling, and it was very uncomfortable. But the other conductor was Antal Dorati, and we shared the tour and concerts. So it was wonderful that I could go to his concerts also and hear the orchestra from the auditorium. I don't forget that that was the first tour.
Mm-hmm. And in May 1967, you were in the Puerto Rico Festival. And 10 days later, you were in the Old City.
Yeah, but that everybody knows.
Well, there's one story that you told me about your night in King David.
Yeah. Well, it was the 6-day war had broken out by the time I landed here. And I went to Jerusalem because I was very friendly with an Israeli captain, Memi de Shalit. And he says, please come to Jerusalem and I will take you to the other side the next morning, because the eastern side was already in Israeli hands. So I went to the King David Hotel. I think I was the only guest there. And in the night, I heard some kind of a noise, but in my sleep, I didn't wake up. And in the morning, when I looked at the picture across from the bed, I saw a hole in the picture. And I removed the frame, and there was a bullet in the wall. It was a stray bullet that came through the window. And that morning, at about 6 o'clock, I went past the Mandelbaum gate, where Memi de Shalit was waiting on the other side, and we went to a hotel, I can't remember the name, where General Herzog was the commanding officer, and we had breakfast together. And why did we go there? Because we wanted to already plan, it was 4 days into the war, already plan the victory concert, which they all wanted to do on Mount Scopus. And we had planned it for Mount Scopus, at the amphitheater of the Hebrew University. But then, one day later, they found so many mines there, they said it's too dangerous. So we did the concert at the Binyanei Homa. And later on, Leonard Bernstein came in July or August and did a concert at the Mount Scopus.